got both. Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I think, like, how would I approach, how
Yeah.
I would approach this
Yeah.
session. This, I actually didn't read. Is it in the README?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you
challenge.
can. So what I would say to a student is like copy and paste the challenge into a place in the code where you think it would be good to have
Got
it,
it.
comment it out, and then, I might say a lot of things about documentation, taking small steps, but since we're just doing a little trial run, go ahead and do it however you would want to do this live challenge that you've never seen before. It'd be interesting to see your process.
Interesting. I'm nervous.
Yeah, no,
So
that's good. I mean, that's one of the things that's a little
it's
hard
been a while. Yeah.
to reproduce in these instructor sessions. And I think
Yeah.
it's important, it would be nice to hear later in reflection about how you're feeling or how you felt. Maybe you could talk about it during it. I don't know. It's like there's so many different ways you could approach this kind of activity. So
Okay. So I'm thinking I'll just go ahead and define my variable here, because that says it's a global variable. And I'm not sure if I'm doing it correct. Assign it to the value. Okay, so is it a string?
yeah,
Are
so
we taking $300 as a string?
yeah, and I think this falls into an interesting category of clarification, which I was reading somebody's blog about interviews and how clarification is actually a really critical skill in the process of problem solving,
Yes.
where there's a level of communication back and forth between the person who gave the challenge and the person who received the challenge. The
Yep.
person who receives the challenge is actually communicating their understanding of what it is. So
Mhm.
that type of question is falls into the category of clarification. Just so you know, down the line, we're going to do stuff with that number. So you can make your own choice about what you want to do, but we're going to do math to that number.
Math. Okay, so I'll just keep it as integer for now, like a number.
Mhm.
And probably wherever I have to print it, I would just use a string interpolation, like make it a string while printing it out on my, like, while putting it on my console or on my DOM. So, okay, so let's see. Declare a global variable total budget. Make this variable visible in top of the page with the text amount left to spend. Okay, so I got a visible in the H1. So do we already have an H1, and it should just add, like, next to the Christmas shop list, or like another H1.
Well, again, you can sort of decide. There's flexibility in that. I don't have hard and fast opinions. I was imagining it being under Christmas shopping list,
Shopping list. Okay.
but based on the way it's worded, I'm not sure I would create a new H1, because it's
So
there's
just,
already one there.
yeah. So I am thinking, so, like, just grabbing H1 and appending my amount left to spend. That is what I think. And I do. Mm, I am so nervous about this somehow. I don't know why. Like, I am like, I'm forgetting things.
Right, because feeling anxious can create short-term memory blocks.
This is like, again, the interview thing which I used to give. Oh my God. Again. I am thinking, I'm just muting myself because there's a lot of noise. Oh, let's not mute. I gotta get the tag. I think it should be this. And I'll just console log to make sure I'm getting the correct thing. Okay, so I'm getting the correct tag. And should I just like append to the already present? Let me see.
You decide how to do it.
Yep, let me try. Yep. So I'm getting the tag. I didn't know like that this could be a just checking. Okay. I'm thinking of doing it. Okay. So now I just want to do amount left to spend. I'm still not like appending it. I'm just checking like how it will come out. Once I do it. This is what I'm thinking. So this is what should come as my this is what I think how I would approach problem. Like I know there has to be some.
Sure. I mean, if the assessor said, no, I really want it to be on a separate line, but inside the same H1.
Okay.
And I also want to see the dollar sign. I think those are some small adjustments, but essentially you've accomplished the task. And so at this point, it's just becoming about some formatting choices that were made. And again, in the clarification phase, you sort of ask the questions as they came up to you. But that's
how do you think you would have approached this? Like, how would you want the student to approach this problem?
Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you solve it. I don't think you need to do it any particular way. I typically don't really approve of using append with text.
Okay.
So I'm glad that you didn't go that route, but we could have had a conversation about what makes sense. But I think append ought to be used only with, elements, not text, even though it does work with text. I've seen students do that before.
I've never tried with text ever, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it works. I think you can append.
It works.
Yeah, I mean, you could try it. You could do the document dot query selector H1 dot append.
And this thing?
Sure.
Although never tried.
Although you wouldn't want to take the inner HTML, you would just do append the amount left, right? Because otherwise you're going to duplicate the
of course.
The Christmas shopping list thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Oh, never thought so.
Yeah, but and again, I think one of the things that's important in live coding is that it's not about the best way to do it. And students shouldn't get stuck on a
Of course.
particular method. And I see that especially at the higher phases in, query methods in Ruby. And it's like, oh, I want to use these special methods, but I can't figure out how to do it. And so it's like, well, I don't care. You go back and iterate over the array and solve the problem. Like, I'm more interested in you figuring out a way to solve the problem than being committed
like
to one particular approach.
this again like puts me in the same spot. Like, so would you say like if given an array and you have to iterate over the array, like for loop would be fine if like person like do you think like
Yeah, I mean
if just use for
that's a great example. And like even the more advanced map filter find, like all of those can be accomplished with for each or a for loop if you really want to get
yes
basic, right?
yes
And so,
yes
what does it mean about the students' like knowledge or their ability to move forward if they solve the problem with a more basic approach rather than using a method that essentially is designed to do that? I'm not judging that part particularly. I'm interested in how they break the problem apart and solve it.
right
And I think in this case, it's an interesting example of like there's really only two things to do. And so the pseudocoding is kind of irrelevant. It's like there's not a whole lot of point here. It's not that complicated of a problem. So
yes
there's not a
yes
lot of reason to spend time writing out plain language descriptions of what you're going to do.
yes
I
yeah
loved the small step validation of, document.query selector H1, got it. Okay, let me look at the inner HTML, got it. And you left it in the console log and just kept making little changes to see, like, to keep up with your thinking. And I think that's
yeah
really a critical approach that a lot of students
exactly
don't
yes
they don't have
yes
it yet. They're like, let me
yes
just write a bunch of code and then see if it works.
yes yes like I have seen people creating buttons and just forgetting to check like if they already have the buttons. Like
Yeah.
they're just like, I built a button, I appended them, I have an HTML.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't see the buttons. I'm like, you didn't like you didn't grab the correct buttons or you didn't make
Yeah.
the correct buttons. And like, and I usually tell them like check on each step, but um, this is how I would approach this problem.
Yeah. And
Okay.
can you speak? I mean, I do think this is valuable. We can put this in the library of things that are available in phase one. I'll do a little bit of editing, but can you
Yeah.
speak to that nervousness and that, like what it did to your brain, how you kind of talked yourself out of it? What was there some messaging that was happening quietly to yourself that was like,
Yes.
you got this?
Sure. So actually, so first of all, like the first thing which makes people nervous or which made me nervous was the like, oh, I haven't seen this question ever. So
Right.
it's like,
Sure.
uh, I'll read it once, then I'll read it twice, so that I just make sure like I'm understanding it correctly. And I think the one thing which I did was like I just started writing something. I just made the global variable, and I was like, in the second line it says like it has to be $300. That was my first question. Like after reading the question, I didn't realize like I might have these questions for you. Like,
Yeah.
is it a string? Is it an integer?
Right.
Or is it a new H1 or is it the same H1? So
Yep. Right.
this comes when I start coding.
Yes.
So
Right.
I know this. So this went away when I started little coding, of course. Like after reading the question, I wasn't sure like how, like I didn't think it through. I had a plan, but I didn't think it through, I would say. But eventually when I started writing, I read the question again. So I think what helped me was I put something, I read the question again if I'm satisfying that thing.
Yeah.
So I just break the question. Like the first part is declare a global variable total
Yeah.
budget. That's it. I didn't even check like that 300.
Yeah.
So just breaking them into pieces helped to clarify my
Yeah.
doubts
Yeah.
and just calming me, I would say.
Yeah, I think if I'm hearing you right, it's a really valuable strategy of taking, this is not very complicated, but it's still even the first sentence you're using as an example, declaring the variable is one thing, and what do you assign
Yes.
it to is another thing. So
With
you're
that,
not
yes,
worrying about what am I going to assign it to until you get to that moment.
exactly.
And
That is
that's,
what my approach is.
yeah, and that can be helpful when you're overwhelmed. You've got to slow down and like take
Yes,
smaller pieces.
yes. So that is what I think usually calms down people, like when they break the problem.
Yeah.
And it's like declaring and assigning are two concepts.
Right.
They are basically two concepts. So
Right.
even though they come in the single line, but
Yeah.
they are two concepts, big concepts to understand. So
Yeah.
making a button, assigning it something, clicking on it, these are very different steps,
Yeah.
involving very different concepts. So I think people just got to break the problem. That is what I think.
Right. And sometimes when the problem is complicated, it's nice to pseudocode, but sometimes the
Exactly.
plain language of the challenge itself can be broken apart. There's a sentence, it has a
Yes.
first part, declare it, and
Yes.
then assign it. That's the second part of the sentence. So it naturally
Yes.
falls apart in the sentence.
The two. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Awesome.
this kind of seemed to be a simple problem. So, and it was in simple English. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was easy to break it because even the full stops and the commas helps
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. A lot of it is stated, clearly, and you've got the and
Yes.
in the middle that naturally breaks it
Yes.
into two parts. Right.
Exactly. So yeah, this is my answer. Like, how would I advise people to approach a problem like this or any
Yeah.
problem?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, this was great, Asta,
Mm,
and I can't wait to do more
yeah.
of the challenges. Don't look ahead. Don't look ahead. Keep it a secret, because that
Yes.
makes it stressful, which I think is great
Yes.
to like model for students
Yes. I'm not
feeling
going to
that.
look it ahead because I think this is great because I had the same feeling which students have.
Yeah. Get a new
So
problem.
yeah.
What's going
Yeah.
to happen? Yeah.